Hey, what's up, everybody? Pat here, grateful recovering alcoholic and addict, just like every day. Guys, please don't forget to subscribe, leave the video a like, drop me a comment, and by all means share it with somebody who might get something out of it. Other than that, happy Friday, everybody. You guys all know what that means. Friday's my AA home group, and once again, I was given an emergency call just before 12 o'clock as I was heading to my meeting, and it wasn't an emergency; it was a convenience. So I made 3 phone calls and let people know I wouldn't be there till 1:30 because again, and that would have never happened in my former life, which is why I talk about these things constantly, guys, because you gotta put yourself first and you gotta keep what's important to you at the forefront of your life. And my making it to my Friday meetings, because I don't make a meeting every day, although I do a video every day. It's, I consider this my meeting, but still, it's of utmost importance to me to make my Friday home group. That's my family, it's my community, which is what recharges me, and I learn lessons there every week, guys. And like any other week, as a matter of fact, I almost didn't do the Just for Today NA meditation, but it was such a good topic I had to. I was going to do the daily reflection again today because I read that at my group today, and that's going to actually be tomorrow's video because it's a really good one. Guys, these are the things that make my life blessed and second to none today. And we're going to get into that. But first of all, let's talk about the Just for Today NA meditation, which is another huge one. It's entitled The Gift of Desperation, which is something you hear in the halls of AA and NA a lot. And it's kind of, it sounds it sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually incredible, and it's literally what happened to me, guys. And we'll go ahead and read it. We'll go from there. The Gift of Desperation. Our disease always resurfaced or continued to progress until in desperation we sought help. When we picture desperation, we envision an undesirable state, poor, bedraggled soul frantically clawing at something sorely needed, desperate look in his eyes, hunted animals, hungry children, and, of course, myself before recovery. Yet it was in this desperation I felt that it was in this desperation I felt that finally got me to admit my life had become desperately unmanageable. Fresh out of ideas, I became open to new ones. My insanity had finally risen higher than my wall of denial, forcing me to finally be honest. My best efforts at control had only worn me out, and hence I became willing to surrender. I was given the gift of desperation, and as a result, I was able to adopt the spiritual principles that have shaped my recovery. Just for today, the gift of desperation has helped me become honest, open-minded, and willing. I am grateful for this gift. It has made my recovery possible. Guys, I honestly, I could have literally written that from my life story. And the gift of desperation is probably the best gift I've been given. Just like sitting in a rehab on Christmas Day, as sad, as shitty as that was beautiful to me because I understood that was the start, right? That was my place, my rock bottom that I could now start climbing out of. And that's literally what I've been doing every day since. And guys, here we are, middle of July, and my life looks nothing like it did back then. And it is so much better than I could have ever possibly dreamed. And it's because I've turned my will over to God, because God wants better for me than I could ever dream for myself. I have no idea where I'm going to be a year from now, but I know it's going to be beautiful. I don't say I believe, I said I know. Because I'm going to show up in the same energy every day. I'm going to continue to ask God to show me his path, to allow me to walk in his light, to let me carry a good message, and to help another addict or recovering alcoholic. Because this is what's important in my life. Everything else, guys, everything else is the details that make up my life, I turn over. Because I know my best thinking got me 40 years of absolute misery. So I've removed myself from the equation. I know just if I do the absolute best I can every day without putting my own spin on the way it should go, just trusting fully. It's what I talk about, this trust fall that I'm doing with the universe. And it's amazing today, guys. It is shocking to me today, guys. My life is progressing. And it's funny, like there's weeks where, with all the hits I took last week, with getting caught up, and taking care of, stuff from my past, and then, at one point I was a little strong. I'm like, oh, I've been saving so much money. I'm on par for this, this house we're going to invest in. And I had to turn on spend a bunch, and I got a little frustrated, so I went out and did a bunch of shopping, right? Well, here I am a week later, and when I haven't even collected all the money I made this week, but when I've collected the majority of the money that I made, I put it in the bank, I realized I'm, up higher than I've ever been in my life. higher than I was when I started paying it out. Like, I'm still making money because I'm putting my trust in the universe and just showing up and doing the best I can without letting things sidetrack me, right? Being grateful for the opportunity to clean up mistakes in my past. And that's huge. And all of this stems from, guys, I could have stayed on drugs. I could have stayed going to work. I could have made up some bullshit story, and I could have just been fighting because I've been doing it for decades, literally decades. I'm better at it than most, and we all are. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not better at it. You know, we're all incredibly good at hustling. I don't have to do that anymore, guys. Had I continued that on, I'd still be working. As a matter of fact, it's funny. I literally just before I walked in the house, a former coworker of mine who we've been talking throughout the day called me up. He needed a battery for his grandfather's car, so I talked him through how to look up the proper battery. And he was just venting about his week at work and asking me if I had any extra work this weekend, which I'm going to see if I can put him to work for the weekend and make him a few extra dollars. Guys, he's literally kind of stepped into my former position to a point. He won't do as much as I used to do, but still. And he's absolutely miserable, and that's literally right where I would be. Only I would be worse off because there's no way I could have stayed there and remained sober. And I'm so incredibly grateful, guys. My life is coming together in ways I could have never dreamed, right? I was talking about it I did with some of my friends in my A group today. Somebody that I was talking about the other night that I'm getting some sober house information together for. We were talking, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to put you in touch with my advisor who gives me all the information that I'm passing you, and it's, she can help. And I let her know, I'm like, this woman's amazing. This is the woman that got me the Harvard scholarship. And she's like, Harvard scholarship? A couple. I'm like, yeah, you guys don't know. I'm like, I'm taking courses at Harvard right now. And it's shocking because these people have heard my testimony. They know where I come from. Guys, not many people that have gone to prison 15 times, sentenced, that have lived 4 years homeless on the street, that were addicted to heroin and fentanyl and crack for 40 years, end up taking courses at Harvard University on a scholarship they knew nothing about. But anybody's capable of it if you're willing to turn your will over, if you're willing to accept the gift of desperation. And then, when you get that, you've got to put everything you have. And that's one thing I do, guys. That's one area that I absolutely stand out. I don't say it to be better than anybody. I say it because I want you guys to do the same. I promised myself when I was in rehab this time around, I heard, and these things were all cliches that I heard constantly. Now they're the way I live my life. Now, one that really stuck out to me, and it always did because it sounded so ridiculous, is chase your recovery with the same enthusiasm you chased your high. And I promised myself I would do that. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do that this time. I have to because I can't. I know what happens. I build momentum when I'm in a structured environment because I do well in a structured environment. I suspect it comes from, being on my own since I was 12 years old, never really having proper parenting, not really having any structure in my life. When I get into a structured environment like military, or even like a prison boot camp or anything like that, I ace it. I do incredibly well. Halfway houses, holding facilities. I'm good at routine like that, and I do incredibly well. And as long as somebody's looking over my shoulder, I have somebody to answer to. But then as soon as I'm on my own, I've failed. And typically, guys, I'm talking, I fail within minutes or hours or days of getting out of these institutions, always, right? And this time was no different. I left rehab and I was cleaning my house that night and I found a rock of crack and I smoked it. And before I even realized what I was doing, and my heart sank. I was so gung-ho and so, pro-God and just like I found my faith and was doing so well. And I had a lot of anxiety because I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I knew I was going to do it. And literally, I fell that quickly. And that was part of God's plan because literally, I like to reset. And it's a big deal for me this time around. I reset my sobriety date to the next day. And now my sobriety date for the first time in my life is actually encompassing time that I've been out on my own, not in a structured environment. And I'm, well beyond anything I've ever had. I've got just over 6 months now, right? And I think I never made more than like 9 months with 6 months being in an institution. So now I've got 6 months on the street under my own supervision, not being answering to anybody, no probation, no parole. I have my recovery advisor, my coach, but those are all voluntary. I'm not taking any mandatory drug tests or anything like that. I do willingly take drug tests, and I give my doctor, my OBAC clinic, my Sublocade clinic, urine screens whenever they want. They haven't asked, but again, I had surgery, so they had them all from that anyway. And I made it through surgery sober, and they're incredibly impressed. I get feedback constantly. As a matter of fact, my recovery advisor asked me today if I was willing to be interviewed for her higher-ups, the year-end review for the recovery, because they consider me the shining star. And I love that today, guys. And this all stems from me being given the gift of desperation. Me finally beating myself into the ground to the point where it didn't take me going to prison. It didn't take being homeless. It was me saying, I can't do it anymore. I can't hold what I had together, and what I had wasn't worth holding together. But I can't continue to just treat myself this way and get up and fight every day for nothing. I couldn't get up and just shovel water against the tide for absolutely no reward over and over again anymore. I just could not do it. I hated who I was. I hated what I was doing. I hated everything about my life, and it was just falling apart quicker than I could possibly put band-aids on it. But I finally understood that in order to save it, I had to burn it. I had to burn it to the ground and find me. And that was the one thing, guys. I don't like to talk about it, but I've had to become vulnerable and be real with you guys, so you guys understand the depth of what I've come through. Because if you look at where I am today, it should make you understand that if I can do it, you can do it. Because I've had it, I was as bad out there as anybody I've ever met or anybody else has ever met. And guys, I started feeling, because I started praying to God, right? I told you about that. I had piles of drugs in front of me, and I'd start crying, and it's what got me into rehab, right? Well, going into rehab that day, and again, I was high as a kite. I finished my heroin that morning at 10 o'clock, and I had a 3 o'clock, appointment at my rehab. But driving down there, I'm just, thinking out loud, and I'm like, I don't know what this is going to look like. I've never really tried this. I've never really given this my whole heart, but I knew that I was going to, because I've been given that gift of desperation. I knew no matter what. But so I was voicing it. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what matters to me. I don't know who I am. I don't know what my thoughts, my beliefs, I didn't know anything at that point. I just knew that I had to figure it out. And that's how I knew early on that I'd been given the true gift of desperation. Because these are things I had never admitted to myself before, never mind to another human being. But from the minute that I get in there, I was completely open, honest, raw, and vulnerable. And I didn't give a shit who said what. And I knew, there was, your typical detox, a lot of street people in there trying to look tough and be cool. And I didn't care. I was honest, and I did everything to the best of my ability. And guys, I'm talking, voice cracking, tears in my eyes. I was in there for Christmas trying to talk to my family, and I didn't care, because I wasn't trying to put on a front for once in my life. I was willing to shed. I wanted to shed all that didn't serve me, and that was my entire life. I was willing to understand that I was given the gift of desperation for a reason, because I needed it. I needed to figure out the basics, guys, what being an adult is, what my morals are, what my values are, what I wanted to strive for, who I wanted to become. So I just focused on those things, and I had conversations with my higher power, whom I choose to call God, and I stood 10 toes down regardless, guys. And it wasn't easy, man. It was tough, right? But at no point did I ever consider going backwards. And then when I failed the night that I got home, my heart sank for a quick second, and immediately I got a download from God to get the fuck out of the house. There was something for me out there. So I walked across the street, and I went over to the Cumberland Farms across the street here, and I went to get a pack of cigarettes, even though I quit smoking, but I just needed something to get my mind off of what I'd done. And I'm waiting in line, and here's this girl talking to the guy. I had my headphones in, so I didn't know what she's saying. And I finally, I'm like, this is taking too long. Something's not right. So I pulled my headphones out, and she's asking him if he knows where an address is. And I said, well, ma'am, I can look it up on my phone here. So I looked it up on my phone. I gave her directions to the street she was looking for. She didn't even know the name of the street, but she had an idea of where it was. So I looked it up. We figured it out. And as she went to walk away, I realized it was 9 o'clock on January 6th. It was freezing fucking cold. And she got a good 3-mile walk ahead of her. And I'm like, ma'am, are you walking? She's like, yeah. I go, I can give you a ride. I got a truck across the street if you're comfortable. And she's like, oh my God, I'd really appreciate it. I said, all right, no problem. So we walked across the street and we got in the truck. And I said, you know what? I missed the whole conversation. I had my headphones in. Can I ask where I'm taking you? Because you don't seem to know exactly where it is. And she said, well, I got a client that lives over there. I'm hoping they have AAA. I locked my keys in my car up the street here. And I said, all right, well, you don't know that you haven't talked to him? She said, no. I said, well, rather than all that, I said, I might have AAA, and if I don't, I am a mechanic. I could probably, what kind of car is it? And she told me it was a Subaru with a frameless glass window. I said, oh, Jesus Christ, I'd break into that thing in seconds. She's like, oh my God, really? I said, absolutely. She goes, will you? And I'm like, of course I will. And she's like, well, who are you? Why are you doing all this? And I told her straight up, I'm like, honestly, I'm going to be dead honest with you. I'm a recovering addict, early sobriety, 5 minutes. And I just made a mistake in my house, and I found some drugs, and I used them, and I'm feeling terrible about myself, and God told me to walk outside, and here I am. I find you, and I suddenly get this flood of emotion that reminds me of all the times over the years, no matter how desperate I was, I would help people broken down on the side of the road and not allow them to pay me. And I'm like, there's something to this here, right? So I went and I broke into her car, literally, guys, 5 seconds. Put a wedge in the window, stuck a bar in there, popped the door lock, boom, she's on her way. And she's like, you're good. I don't want your name. I don't want your number. I just, God bless. Have a good night. You've done me a bigger favor than I've done you. And she just couldn't understand that. But she had. Because she took that feeling of shame, guilt of, oh my God, am I really going to fail? And she took it off my shoulders. And I literally felt 1,000 times better and said, no, I know now. That's my soul's purpose. I'm here to serve. I'm going to find some way to be of service. I had been tossing around the idea of this YouTube channel in rehab, and I kept it quiet because I didn't want anybody else to take my idea. And I come home that night, and I meditated on it, and I prayed on it, and I knew immediately the next day that was what I was going to do, and that's what I was going to do, and I was going to just try to be the best version of me every single day and be of service to another human being in every way, shape, or form that I could. And then just, be thankful to God, and I trusted fully that if I did so, then my life would continue to get better every day. Guys, it is shocking how good it has gotten, how much I love my life, and I love where I'm at today. I come home from work earlier, and I saw a comment. If you look at, not yesterday's video, but the day before, there was a comment from a gentleman that's new to the channel, and he left me a big paragraph of everything he's going through, and I responded back. I read things like that, and the last thing he said was, please keep doing what you're doing. You just helped me greatly. And I think I said, literally almost brought tears to my eyes. And I sent him back an information, and I don't know your first name, but if you're watching this video, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for reaching out. Please don't feel you unloaded. Literally, that comment brought tears to my eyes, because I remember being in your shoes, my friend. I've been there over and over again. And I promise you, if you surrender, and I know it's not easy because you have a lot of people don't know where you're at yet, but guys, it will come to light. The losses will continue to stack. Surrender and do the best do whatever is right for you. If you need help, drop me an email, drop me a comment. I will help you however I can. This goes for anybody out here. But understand that you cannot keep using drugs and expect to get out of the situation. Things are only going to progress and get worse, and I'm sorry to tell you that, but that is my first-hand experience. But the minute you surrender, the minute you're given that gift of desperation, things start to get immensely better. 6 short months later, guys, I don't recognize the person that I am. The person that I used to be is dead. I put that person to rest. The person that I am today gets treated differently by everybody in society. All the people that used to look down on me now are praising me, are respecting me, are offering me opportunities that are shocking to me. My life has gotten better, 1,000 times better in every single aspect of my life. I'm still single, but I know I'll have a relationship coming in soon. And I'm telling you right now, I'm calling it out. I'm about to step into the best relationship I've ever had, because I won't allow anything less than that. And that's what I did, guys. I understood that I allowed every shitty situation, every shitty relationship, every toxic codependent relationship I had in my life, I created. Because that's how I saw myself. Today, I understand that I'm a very wise, very strong, very resilient, very caring, very compassionate, good human being. And that's all I will allow other people to treat me as, because that's who I am. And that's the most important thing, guys, because how you treat yourself, you teach the world how to treat you by how you treat yourself. And I'm not saying you can flip a switch and make it happen overnight, but if you start working at it wholeheartedly every day with everything you have, your life will get shockingly good before you know it. Don't get me wrong, you're gonna do the work, but you're gonna love doing it, because you're gonna feel and you're gonna get the rewards of it every single day. Guys, God loves you. I love you. Thank you so much for being here. It is such an honor and privilege to serve you. I love you all so much. God loves you. I will see you in the next one.